HOA members, what's the most satisfying karma you've witnessed? Our HOA president Brenda had a rule for everything, and she loved enforcing them. She once fined me $50 because my welcome mat was, and I quote, excessively whimsical. My neighbor got a violation for having a garden gnome she deemed tacky. We all lived in a state of low-grade terror. Brenda's power was absolute, her judgment swift. Her own property, of course, was a sterile masterpiece of beige conformity, until the garden. One spring, a massive construction project began in her backyard. For weeks, we watched as truckloads of exotic rocks and custom-built pagodas arrived. It was a sprawling, elaborate Zen garden, complete with a koi pond and a 10-foot waterfall. It was also a flagrant violation of at least a dozen HOA bylaws, from unapproved structures to landscape modifications. But who would dare report Brenda? She was the HOA, a one-woman government. Failure to stop her meant living under her thumb forever. I spent a week in the town library's archives, digging through boxes of dusty old documents. I was looking for the original HOA formation papers from the 1970s. And there, tucked away in an appendix, I found it. Bylaw 72C. It was a long-forgotten rule, written to prevent the original developer from changing the community's layout after houses were sold. It stated that any structural modification over 500 square feet required a unanimous vote of all homeowners on the affected block, not the HOA board, every single homeowner. Brenda's garden was easily 3 times that size. I made copies of the bylaw and the original property survey map. I didn't confront her. Instead, I set a trap. I submitted a formal request to the HOA board to plant a small tree in my front yard, knowing Brenda would reject it. As expected, I received a denial letter a week later, citing a rule about maintaining a uniform skyline. That was the opening I needed. I hired a lawyer and filed an official dispute, not just for my tree, but citing Bylaw 72C and Brenda's illegal garden as proof of selective and malicious enforcement. The HOA's legal counsel was forced to call an emergency meeting. Brenda sat at the head of the table, her face like stone, as my lawyer laid out the case. She tried to argue the bylaw was obsolete, but it was right there in the founding charter, black and white. The final verdict was undeniable. She had violated the core rules of the association she was supposed to lead. The HOA board, terrified of a massive lawsuit, had no choice. They voted to enforce the bylaw. Brenda was ordered to dismantle her entire unpermitted Zen garden, publicly, at her own expense. The first swing of the sledgehammer against her custom-built pagoda was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. For the next month, we all watched as she was forced to tear down her monument to hypocrisy, brick by agonizing brick. She resigned as president the day the last rock was hauled away.